Welcome to Elevate English. Elevate your English. Elevate your life. If you found this video informative, please like, share, and subscribe to the Elevate English channel. Let's start our story.
The Clockmaker's Daughter. In the heart of an old European town stood a shop that had defied centuries, Le Temps Eternal, the clockmaker's workshop. Its sign, painted in gold and chipped with age, swayed gently above the cobbled streets. The shop had been the pride of the Meunier family for generations, its timepieces renowned for their elegance and precision. Inside, the air was filled with the rhythmic ticking of clocks, a symphony of time. Gilded pendulums swung in harmony while intricately carved cuckoo clocks nestled alongside towering grandfather clocks. The shop was a world unto itself, a sanctuary for those who sought to hold time in their hands. At its center was Camille Meunier, the last of her line, an artist of gears and springs. At 27, she had inherited the workshop after her father's passing, her hands as skilled as his but her heart weighed down by the legacy. The townsfolk often remarked on her talent, but Camille's smile rarely reached her eyes. The responsibility of continuing her family's craft felt more like a shackle than an honor. Her days were spent restoring old clocks and crafting custom pieces, her fingers moving deftly over brass and enamel. Each clock she repaired seemed to take a piece of her soul, ticking away moments she could never reclaim. It was on an ordinary afternoon, as she polished the face of an antique pocket watch, that the bell above the shop door chimed. Camille glanced up to see a man step inside, his coat damp from the drizzle outside. He was tall, with hair as dark as the storm clouds, and carried a curious air of purpose. "Good afternoon," he said, his voice low and steady. "Are you the clockmaker?" "I am," Camille replied, setting the watch aside. "What can I do for you?" The man reached into his coat and withdrew a small, tarnished timepiece. Its face was cracked, and its hands were frozen at 3:15. "This belonged to my grandfather," he explained. "It stopped years ago. I've been told this is the only place that might be able to fix it." Camille took the watch, her fingers brushing against his as she did. "I'll see what I can do," she said, studying the intricate design. The craftsmanship was exquisite, unlike anything she had seen before. "Thank you," the man said. "I'm Henri, by the way." "Camille," she replied. As Henri turned to leave, Camille called after him. "It might take some time. This piece is unusual." Henri smiled. "Take as long as you need. I'll be back." That evening, long after the shop had closed, Camille sat under the warm glow of a single lamp, examining the watch. It was a masterpiece of miniature engineering, its gears more delicate than a spider's web. Yet something about it puzzled her. The mechanism seemed to resist her touch as if it had a will of its own. She worked late into the night, her mind absorbed in the intricate puzzle. As she adjusted the mainspring, she noticed an inscription inside the case, "Tempus vincit omnia." Time conquers all. The words sent a shiver down her spine. Over the next few days, Henri became a familiar presence in the shop. He would stop by to check on the progress of the repair, lingering longer with each visit. They spoke of everything and nothing, his childhood memories of the watch, her father's stories of crafting clocks for royalty, the way time seemed to stretch and compress depending on one's mood. Henry's charm was understated, his humor gentle, and Camille found herself looking forward to his visits. For the first time in years, the shop felt less like a cage and more like a bridge to the world outside. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Henri shared a story that lingered with Camille. "My grandfather used to say that this watch was no ordinary timepiece," he said. "He claimed it held the ability to pause time, though only for moments. He never explained how it worked, and I always thought it was just a tale to amuse a child." Camille chuckled, though her hands hesitated over the watch's mechanism. If only it were that simple. Imagine the things we could do with even a second stolen from time. Henry's gaze held hers. "Would you?" he asked. She thought for a moment, then shook her head. "No. Time moves as it must. We're meant to follow, not control it." Henri smiled but didn't respond, leaving her to wonder if he agreed. It was on a quiet Sunday morning, with the streets still hushed from the night's rain, that Camille finally unlocked the watch's secrets. A hidden compartment within the mechanism revealed a tiny, sapphire-like stone that pulsed faintly with light. It was unlike any material she had ever encountered. The moment her fingers brushed against the stone, the world around her stilled. The clocks in her shop stopped ticking, the rain outside froze mid-air, and even her breath felt suspended. It lasted only an instant, but when time resumed, Camille's heart raced with the enormity of what she had experienced. Henri returned that afternoon, and Camille handed him the repaired watch with a mixture of pride and trepidation. "It's done," she said, her voice steady despite the whirlwind of thoughts in her mind. Henry's relief was palpable as he cradled the watch in his hands. "Thank you, Camille. You've brought something precious back to life." Their eyes met, and for a moment, the air between them felt charged with unspoken words. Before Henri could leave, Camille asked, "Do you believe what your grandfather said about the watch?" Henri hesitated, then nodded. "I think I want to believe." "And you?" Camille smiled faintly. "I think some mysteries are best left unsolved." But the mystery refused to remain hidden. That night, as Camille lay awake in her apartment above the shop, the watch's strange power haunted her thoughts. She retrieved the journals her father had left behind, searching for any mention of unusual mechanisms. One entry stood out. "Time is not a river but a thread, woven and rewoven by forces we cannot comprehend. Our craft touches the edge of that thread, but to grasp it fully is to invite ruin." The words felt like a warning. Over the following weeks, Camille noticed subtle changes in Henri. He seemed more guarded, his visits less frequent. When he did appear, the watch was always with him, its chain gleaming like a tether to another world. One evening, as the town celebrated the Festival of Lanterns, Henri arrived at the shop just as Camille was closing. His face was drawn, his movements restless. "I need to show you something," he said, his voice urgent. Camille followed him to the town square, where the lanterns floated upward like stars returning to the sky. Henri held up the watch and pressed a hidden catch on its side. Time froze. The lanterns hung suspended, their flames motionless. The laughter and music of the festival fell silent. Camille's breath caught as she looked around at the frozen world. "It works," Henri said softly. "But every time I use it, I feel detached, as if I'm stepping further away from the people around me." Camille stared at him, her mind racing. "You have to stop using it, Henri. This isn't natural." Henri looked at her with a mixture of longing and despair. "What if you could hold on to a moment forever? Wouldn't you be tempted?" "No," Camille said firmly. "Moments are precious because they're fleeting. If you take that away, they lose their meaning." Her words seemed to pierce through Henri's turmoil. Slowly, he released the catch, and time resumed its flow. The lanterns drifted upward, and the sounds of the festival returned, as if nothing had happened. In the days that followed, Henri grew more withdrawn. Camille knew he was struggling to let go of the watch's power, and she worried about what it might do to him. Then, one rainy evening, he returned to the shop with a decision. "I want you to keep it," Henri said, placing the watch on her workbench. Camille stared at him in shock. "Henri, I can't." "You're the only person I trust," he interrupted. "I thought I could handle it, but it's too much. Maybe you can find a way to undo whatever it is." Reluctantly, Camille accepted the watch, though its weight felt heavier than ever. Over the following weeks, she worked tirelessly, studying the strange mechanism and searching for answers in her father's journals. She discovered that the sapphire-like stone was the key, a fragment of something ancient and otherworldly. Removing it might render the watch inert, but the process was risky. Finally, late one night, Camille made her decision. With careful precision, she removed the stone and placed it in a lead-lined box. The watch's ticking ceased, and the faint pulse of the stone faded. Henri returned the next morning, his face a mixture of hope and fear. When Camille told him what she had done, he looked relieved. "Thank you," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "For everything." Camille smiled, though her heart ached at the thought of their paths diverging. As Henri prepared to leave the town, they shared one last moment in the shop. "Time may conquer all," Henri said, his hand lingering on the doorframe. "But some moments, like this one, feel eternal." Camille nodded, her eyes shining. "Because they are." And as the door closed behind him, the clocks in the shop ticked on, their steady rhythm a reminder that time, though relentless, always carried the promise of new beginnings.